Hello, lovelies. Welcome to another episode of Women's Wellness That Works in our expert series. I'm so excited today because we have a wonderful guest here who I previously interviewed in season 1. In fact, she was one of my first guests on Women's Wellness That Works a year and a half ago. She is our lifestyle and nutrition expert, Mimi Cerutti. Thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm so excited to be back. This is so cool.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's been a year and a half since we actually interviewed you, and so much probably has happened in a year and a half. So why don't you share a little bit what's happened since we last interviewed you?
Oh my gosh. Well, so much has happened. I am stepping back into building my practice. So this is like the perfect time to be doing this because when we did the interview a year and a half ago, I was at the very beginning of this new journey that I was on. And ironically, tomorrow is my year and a half sober mark.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So it was right about that time that I was like, okay, it's time to create my life how I want it to look. And I really started taking some different steps at that time. So this is kind of like anniversary time.
Yes. Yes. I'm so excited for you because for some of the ladies who recall some of the events I've had, Mimi was the one who actually brought in our beautiful charcuterie boards, and she created these amazing foods for my Women's Wellness That Works events. And so even though I missed that, and obviously that was wonderful, you are definitely going into you're up leveling, basically. You're definitely moving into a different journey.
Yes.
So that's really amazing. So let's talk about motherhood, because I know in our first interview, you spoke about your children and that you're a mother of 5. And for those of you who do not recall her first interview, I would love for you to go back and watch her first interview before you listen to this, because she has such an amazing story about motherhood, which I'm as a mom, I'm just so touched with your story. So now you mentioned when we were having our conversation about your son that he had gone through some epilepsy. He went through some recent surgeries. Is that true?
Yeah. He is 17 and he was diagnosed with epilepsy at the age of 9. He's actually here right now.
Oh.
But he is such a warrior. He's been through so much. But he just recently had brain surgery last month, and he's doing really, really well. It's amazing what they can do.
Yes.
Yeah, he's on the road to recovery, and so far, so good. Things are going well so far.
So when he was first diagnosed at the age of 9, what symptoms or what things came to you that made you realize, oh, I need to get him checked?
The kind of tipping point was that he started having seizures. But what we didn't realize was that he was probably having them before we even knew it, because he has a type called partial seizures that aren't necessarily very visible. But he was having those, and then he started having tonic-clonic seizures, which is essentially the same thing as grand mal seizures.
And so how many surgeries has he had for his epilepsy?
Well, the first surgery was what's called an SEEG, which I'm not even going to try to say the word, but it's like a super long word. But basically they go in, they drill holes in his head, and they put the EEG wires into his brain to monitor the seizure activity. So that was the first surgery that he had. And I would actually even say that might have been harder than the actual brain surgery, in my opinion, on this side of the story, right? But yeah, so 2 surgeries.
Okay. And so how is he doing today? How's he feeling?
He's feeling good.
Yeah.
He just gave me a thumbs up. He's about to
Cool.
graduate high school in May,
Oh,
which is like
wonderful. Congratulations.
absolutely incredible because he's been through so much
So much.
in the last year, and he's still going to graduate on time. So he's just been like so committed, and he's persevered through so much. I'm so proud of him, and I'm not
And
just
so,
saying that because he's here.
well, congratulations to him, and more courage and strength and health and healing for the rest of his life. And I definitely pay tribute to you because, and recognize you as a mom who, has 5 children, and, any child who's going through an illness, it's just heartbreaking, right? So where do you find your strength and courage to go through something like this? And how have you dealt with that?
Oh my gosh. Well, I would love to actually back up a little bit and say a little bit about my kids and how I have 5 of them
Mhm.
because it's been a very long journey. But I raised my brother and sister as well. So 2 of 5 of my kids are my actual siblings. And I raised them from the time that I was 17, 18 years old. And they were 1 and 3 at the time. So they're quite a bit younger than me. But
Mhm.
that was the beginning of finding a strength within myself that I had to have because I knew that if I didn't, that these kids would go down the same, being raised in the same environment that I was raised in, which was a very traumatic experience. And I didn't want that for them. So it was a decision that I made to step into changing that path for them, and then essentially changing that path for my kids too, because alcoholism and drug addiction is in my family,
Your family.
and should have been, but statistically should have been the same path that I followed. But I made a decision for the sake of my kids to not go down that path and to show them a different way. So that is the thing that continues to drive me in everything that I do.
Yes, and I admire you for that, and the strength and courage at 17. Oh my goodness, to actually take on that responsibility is huge. I can't imagine. You were obviously mature. You've gone through so much in your short life at the time that you decided to make this amazing decision to raise your brother and sister. So and because of that, and because I know I know raised them to be such amazing adults in this world now. So, and your children. So motherhood, and how do you now? You also work a corporate job. You also are continuing a new business and a new journey, and you're raising 5 kids. I know there's some women out there like, oh my God, that's just, I don't think I could do that. There's no way. So what are some of the advice or maybe tips to women about maybe what it's like to raise 5 kids and have a career at the same time?
Well, it's a lot, and I will say my youngest is now 17, so I feel like I'm coming out of that really chaotic period where it's like, I mean, there was a point where I had 5 kids at home at this, and I was doing
And
a lot of other.
were you a single mom at the time, or were
No, I
you?
was married at the time.
Yeah, even
And
so, that's still quite a bit.
yeah, yeah, and I think that the most important thing that we can do as women, and I didn't learn this until later, probably even through my divorce, which was 10 years ago now.
Yes.
But that I needed to make myself a priority above everything else, even before my children, because my children didn't get the best of me when I wasn't doing that, when I wasn't taking care of myself and making myself a priority. So that has become part of my message and my practice with women that I work with, is that you have to be first. And it sounds counterproductive, right? Because it sounds like, well, if I give myself what I need, then my family and my kids are going to suffer. But no, it's actually quite the opposite.
The opposite.
Mm-hmm. And you don't really know that until you start practicing it and doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so as you said, it does feel counterproductive, unfamiliar, even because we constantly, as women, are always giving, and nurturing. And it's the receiving part that really we get to work more on. It's like, I receive, yes, thank you, I receive, which is very hard, especially when, you're running a household, running a business, running this and that. To ask for help, I think for me personally, was probably the hardest thing to do, was to ask for help and then receive it. One thing to ask it, but another thing to receive it. So yeah, definitely. You put yourself first, which first and foremost you have to, right? So what does your self-care routine look like during your day? What does that look like for you?
Well, now, I mean, it's definitely evolved over the years, through practicing and seeing what works. And then it changes all the time, right? Because life is always changing. So you have to be able to adjust with what's in front of you. But currently, I would say probably one of the most important things that I do on a daily basis is make sure that I get up early enough to have time for myself before I jump into anything else. And this is like my lifeline right now. Because my days are so busy and I have so much that I'm doing, that I have to start my day with some meditation, some journaling, some like mapping out of like, what do I have to get done today and what can wait, prioritizing, getting some sunshine. Yeah. And then exercise. That doesn't happen every day, but yeah.
As much as you can get in during the week, right?
Yes.
And then, so you are a lifestyle and nutrition expert here in Women's Wellness at Work. So we're talking about lifestyle, right? So making the right choices, healthier choices for you. How did you get into nutrition, and how does that affect your daily life and your kids' life too? Because, you are teaching them about nutrition.
Yeah. Well, that journey actually started it probably started sooner than this, but when I got really serious about it was when my son was diagnosed with epilepsy. And I was like, oh my God, I can help him with nutrition. And I got super strict, and I was like, we're going to do all of this perfectly and we're going to cure him. and initially what happened is my kids got really mad and they didn't want to eat the food that I was making. And there was a point where we were all sitting down at dinner, and like 3 of my kids were crying because they didn't want to eat the meal that I made. And so I had to start. He's laughing. But that was a learning process for me, because it's like, well, you can make all these changes and you can do all these things, but if you are in a state of suffering and not enjoying anything that you're doing, then that can be counterproductive too.
Correct.
So I took on a different approach, which is educating them and helping them to learn what feels good. When you eat that, how does it make you feel? And now, my son knows he can't have dairy because it makes him sick. And so that became my approach through the years, is like, okay, let me educate my kids on all about food itself and about tuning into your body and figuring out what works for you. So that's been
and that's so typical of moms, right? It's like, okay, we're going to eat healthy, or we're going to start eating more fruits and vegetables, blah, blah, and you give all this, okay, you got to eat this, you got to eat that, you got to eat that. And it's like, oh, I don't think I'm going to. So it's like, even foods that are good for us may not be good for our body, right? Depending on what our body is going through. So yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people are dairy free, gluten free. For me, I have a lot of food sensitivities personally, so I avoid a lot of different foods. Even the foods that are healthy, I have to avoid just because my gut and microbiome. So now that you know this, and now that you know they are older, the only thing you can do now is just educate them and lead by example, right? I mean, you can't
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
force them to eat what you make them.
Exactly. And they know that when they get stuck or they have questions or they need help, they know that they can come to me and I can help them or point them in the right direction or whatever. It's really cool because my daughter, she's 20, and she recently moved to Indiana. And
Oh, okay.
when she was here, we were doing a lot of stuff together. We were working out super regularly. But it's just cool now because now she's way over there and she will tell me she just joined the gym where she lives and she's trying to clean up her and her boyfriend's diet. And so it's like, it's cool to see all the practices that I've put in throughout the years. They're taking some of them and they're making them,
Yeah,
they're fitting them into their lives now as
that's
adults. And
yes, exactly. And what you said perfectly is you just start to educate them. The first thing you do is just educate them. And once they have that information, then they can make their own choices, right? And make their own decisions, especially if they're adults. So that's basically as a mother of a 25-year-old daughter as well. It's like I can only, share with you what I know, but you're going to eat what you want and whatever feels good to you, right?
yeah.
So yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Like
and
she's
that's part of their process too. That's part of their
Mhm.
journey, that's how they're going to learn what they need to do for themselves and what works and what doesn't. And yeah. So
Yeah, so let's talk about your new business and your venture and what are you doing and what can you share with us? What are the things that you're doing and sharing with your clients?
so I just relaunched my programs. I've been a nutritionist since 2016. And my practice has gone with the waves of life. um, but I now, because I'm in such a different place in my own life, I am taking it on newly and launching some new programs and just really coming at it from a different perspective, which has been a beautiful unfolding. But I'm launching 3 programs in my business right now. One is strictly nutritional focused. It's a cleanse, a 2-week cleanse. And then the other 2 are longer duration, more in-depth coaching programs. So we really take the time to go into your lifestyle practices. We look at everything that you're doing now, and I really meet you where you're at. So it's like, we don't want to make all of these huge changes right off the bat that aren't going to be sustainable. We want to really dive in deeper and see, okay, what can we do now? And where can we start to make little changes that will last?
Great. So do you practice your program? Have you done it for yourself?
Oh, yeah, several times.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's a lifestyle practice. So it's how I try to live my life, right? I try to practice what I preach all the time. And it's great because I need the reminders as much as anybody else.
What's the name of your program in your business?
I'm essentially just Mimi Marie Nutrition.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how and where can we find you?
I do most of my social media activity on Instagram. So it's exactly that, Mimi Marie Nutrition.
Okay, great. And are you also on Facebook?
I'm on Facebook. Yes. I just started doing Pinterest again, which is so funny because I went on there and there was so much stuff to clean up from several years ago. But it's a fun resource. And then also I'm in the works of starting my own little interview platform. I don't have any of that set up yet, but
Oh, I'm excited.
that's coming soon. And I'm sure that you will be one of my guests when I'm ready.
Yes, I would be honored. And if there's any support you need, definitely let me know because I can give you some tips on that.
Yes,
Wow.
for sure.
For sure. I mean, gosh, it's been a year and a half since we last interviewed you. There's so much going on with your family, business, new venture. Your children are growing up, and you're evolving and up leveling, in so many ways. And that's what I love to see, especially from the first time we interviewed you to now. And wow, what a joy and what a celebration it is to see where you've come and being sober now for a year and a half or over a year and a half now. So that's amazing. I know a lot of people out there have maybe questions about your journey with addiction and being sober. So where, they can find you on Instagram and Facebook, right? And contact you.
Yeah. And I have my website as well, mimimarie.com.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and to that point, I have a coaching certification in recovery work as well. So I'm not necessarily focused on helping people in recovery, but that is in the background of the coaching that I do with nutrition, right? Because that can be really closely related to our addictive patterns.
Yes, to food or to other things. So yes, that's great that you have that knowledge and information in case you need to use it. For people out there, it's such a conversation that still needs to be had. And I think you're the perfect person to have that platform to discuss that in your podcast or your videos. So I think women in general, I think we are our worst critic and we judge ourselves so much that we put so much pressure on ourselves, and we can turn to food very easily or alcohol very easily. Like, I know a lot of women that have a drink every night, maybe one or two drinks every single night, but that's for years and years and years. And, the effects that it can have, especially for women going through my age group of menopause and beyond, right? So there's a lot of things that you can share with women on the effects of, the foods and the addiction and alcohol and how that affects our body, our mind, body, and spirit, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Because it's not necessarily about the thing that we're taking and putting into our body. It's about what's behind that. Why are we doing that? And those are the things that we kind of want to dig a little deeper into. So that's where the answer.
Did you know? Yeah, that's what what's great about you is that you can definitely help people find the core reasons of their addiction, whether it be food, or whatever, but nutrition in general, because food is medicine. Food is definitely medicine, right?
Absolutely.
So we need to nourish our brains and our body. I heard information about spirit, the spirits that so they call alcohol spirits because it actually affects our spirit when we drink. So the alcohol actually basically takes you away from your soul. So they called it spirits way back when, during the Prohibition. So alcohol, they called it spirits because, when you drink too much or you overindulge, it actually removes you from your spirit, from your soul, and you become somebody else. So that's just really interesting.
What an interesting psychological play on advertising, right? I've done a lot of reading about how alcohol became what it is and how much goes into the advertising of it and the whole societal condition that we live in around alcohol, where it normalizes it and it makes it okay. And it makes it like, oh, I had a hard day, let me have a drink. Or, there's so much, but it is incredible the amount of money that goes into advertising and making it okay.
Yeah, like a norm. It is
Like
the
a
norm. It
norm.
is definitely a daily thing. Personally, I don't drink by choice. And one, also for health reasons.
Mhm.
My partner, my husband partner, he is a diabetic, so he can't drink at all, right? So in order to respect him, I don't drink. But I do know, as a woman who's gone through menopause and hormone changes, that our alcohol affects us in so many ways, inflammation and sugar, right, which we definitely don't need more of, but it affects our hormones so bad. It's sleep, especially with sleep, our cortisol levels
Yeah.
and so forth. So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
so many
alcohol in
things.
general
Yep.
are,
And
there's so many effects.
I'm really happy because this is becoming more of a public conversation, and there's so much what they call quit lit out there, just books about people's stories and people removing alcohol from their lives and how amazing it can be. But also, like you're saying, the huge impacts that alcohol has on our health, and that hasn't been talked about for a very long
Mhm.
time. But even moderate drinking
Drinking,
has
and that's what I'm
has
talking about. It's basically moderate drinking. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, especially
yeah,
for women. Like I said, we're having a cocktail, you're having a glass of wine here and there. Let's go to happy hour, let's go out
yeah,
and drink. It's like, okay, so you're doing that on a regular basis, even if it's once a week, even if it's once a week, right?
yeah,
But you're overindulging and you're still continuing that, right? So it does play a huge part on your liver, your gallbladder, your gut, your hormones, as I mentioned, and
yeah,
gosh, sleep is like the most important for me. So
yeah,
yeah,
your
for
circadian
sure.
rhythm,
I,
yeah,
yeah, your circadian rhythm's off and everything. So yeah, and people think, oh, I'll just have a glass of wine, I can go to sleep. And actually, no, sometimes it keeps you up at night
I
and you
know,
don't sleep like a full night's sleep, a full restful sleep.
yep,
But yeah. And
yeah,
I know you can have a whole show just on that, like the effects of alcohol
I
on
know,
women's body or anyone's body, but women especially, because I think women are the foundations of your family. So you have to be as healthy as
yeah,
possible, right?
yeah,
To keep
absolutely,
yourself as healthy as possible.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for being here with us at Women's Wellness That Works and our lifestyle and nutrition expert. And so definitely, if you have any questions for Mimi, please contact her. We'll put that all the information on below here, and you can um, message her or email her or just have a conversation and say, hey, I loved your interview. But please catch her first interview. You will love her, and I love her, and you will love her as much as I do. I know you already do. And I want to thank you so much for just being such a great light and energy and just sweetness about you. I just adore you so much.
oh, thank you so much. I love you so much, and it's such an honor to be on again, and just to kind of be on this journey together. I know we don't get to see each other very often in person, but I always just know you're there, and I know that we're navigating this life together in a sense. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Women empowering women, sisters empowering each other. So, yes, we are all together in this world and in this journey together. I
yeah.
so thank you. And again, remember, every woman has her story. What's your story? Until next time, catch us on the next Women's Wellness That Works. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.